Greetings, soul travelers, and welcome to another service from here, all of us here at Sunburst. The topic today is faith, inner knowing. And I found this to be a fascinating topic to research and meditate on. And I wanted to kind of just give everyone, I'm sure a lot of you know the sequence of teachers that have led us up to this point in time. But for those that haven't heard it before or don't remember it, Norm Paulson was a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. And Norm Paulson started Sunburst in 1969. He had lived with Yogananda in Los Angeles at the SRF monastery for 5 years. And with Yogananda's blessing, he came back to the Santa Barbara area and worked in the construction industry for probably 20 years before anything really started happening with the change of consciousness on the planet and in the country. And when some fellow soul travelers sought him out in Santa Barbara because they had heard he knew how to meditate and could teach people how to meditate, they started coming to his house and having nightly meditations. And that evolved into Norm and this small group of soul travelers forming Sunburst. And Yogananda, with his teacher's blessing, Sri Yukteswar, came to this country in 1920 and traveled the country and had huge gatherings in massive halls around the country, talking about Kriya Yoga and the power that it can bring to us. Sri Yukteswar's teacher was Lahiri Mahasaya. And Lahiri was a householder, worked for the railroad, and he had a desire to evolve spiritually, and we all feel he was an old soul who probably through many lifetimes had meditated and received blessings from the divine. And he got transferred to this small town at the base of the Himalayas and ended up climbing up, felt drawn to climb, and when he got to the top, he met this deathless saint, as he's called, and his name is Babaji, who has appeared from time to time for hundreds and hundreds of years. And he initiated Lahiri in Kriya Yoga because it had been retreated into the mountains with yogis in the Dark Ages and kept alive there. And Babaji knew it was time for it to start being offered back out to the masses again. And so Lahiri initiated Sri Yukteswar, who initiated Yogananda, who initiated Norm. And that's kind of our history to this point. And one of the things that happened with Sri Yukteswar was that he met Babaji and was instructed to write a book. And he wrote the book, The Holy Science. And it's a very, very interesting book and worthwhile reading if you haven't read it already. And in that book, he outlines the rise and fall of consciousness on this planet. And just like we live in duality, and just like there's hot and cold and happy and sad, well, there's high consciousness and there's low consciousness. And what happens on this planet is that every 24,000 years, we go through a complete cycle of total spirituality to very dense, dark energies like the Dark Ages. And then it ascends back up, and everybody starts becoming more conscious until the peak, and then it starts over again every 24,000 years. And we came out of the yuga called the Kali Yuga in around 1700. And the Kali Yuga was very dense, and that's when Kriya Yoga was assigned to the yogis in the mountains, and mankind sort of groveled in the dense energies of that time. And that's the yuga that Jesus came to teach the love and compassion of the divine, trying to inspire those souls to evolve in these dark times. And so we transition into the Dapara Yuga now, and as we can tell, things are advancing so quickly, technologically and even spiritually in this yuga, as we ascend back up towards total oneness with divine again. And the key word of the Dapara Yuga is, I know. It's the yuga for self-realization, where we determine answers to questions like, who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going when we die? How did all these things get created? What sustains life on this planet? And slowly, as we evolve through this yuga, these questions will become very apparent. The answers will become very apparent to all those that seek out the answers. I found there's an interesting thing between faith and belief, and sometimes those things can get mixed up. And a belief can be swayed or destroyed by contrary evidence and doubt. But faith is ever secure, because it is the direct perception of the truth. There was a time not long ago when everyone thought the world was flat, that this earth was flat. That was a belief. They believed that the earth was flat. But as progress happened in science, it was proven that that belief was wrong. So faith comes from, where does it come from? It comes from our intuition. As we develop our intuition, we can determine whether what we're feeling is faith or is it a belief. So many souls on the planet experience blind faith. As I was growing up, there were certain periods of my life when I observed my friends just kind of mindlessly, okay, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to get married, I'm going to get a job, have kids. And then when I was in college, same thing. I got out of college, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids, have a job. And not really having any introspection as to, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this the direction my life is supposed to be? So we all need to develop inter-knowing faith. And Yogananda quoted, I have a quote from Yogananda, faith must be rooted in spiritual realization. Otherwise, it lacks vitality. I wanted to just relate a personal story in my life about faith. I was living in upstate New York from about 7th grade through the graduation of high school. Before that, my parents had moved us around about 6 times before we settled there. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I really felt lost and confused. And in 1961, starting in 61, 62, I had a series of conscious sleep experiences in the astral. And the theme was pretty much the same, but the situation changed in each experience. But I would either be coming out of a building or I would be getting out of a car somewhere where there wasn't any sunlight. And I would come out of the door and be blinded by this white light. So much so that it often woke me up. And I would just kind of go, whoa, what was that? And it was not soon after that, those experiences, that I started having this desire building within me to go to California. And I'd never thought about going to California before. And I thought, well, okay, I guess maybe I'm supposed to go to California for some reason. And what we have to understand is that in the late 60s, even in the mid 60s, we were in the midst of a war in Vietnam. And at the time, there was a draft. In other words, once a male turned 18, they were eligible to be drafted. You just had no choice. You had to go and serve at least 2 years. But a week before graduation from high school, I get my draft notice saying, we want you to show up like a week or 2 after my graduation from high school. And so consequently, I had started applying at colleges before that. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, well, after I graduate high school, I'm going to go to California for the summer, and then I'm going to come back and go to college. Well, there's the old saying where man plans and God laughs, and I happened to fail physics my senior year, and my college said, well, if you make it up in summer school, we'll let you in, but otherwise you can't get in. And so I had to go to summer school. So that trip to California was off. But yet that faith that I knew I was supposed to go to California never wavered. I knew I was supposed to go, and I thought, okay, I'll go after college. And so I went to college, and again, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. I picked a major that I got a best grade in. That was it. I didn't have any desire to excel in that major at all. So when I got out of college, well, first of all, 2 weeks before I graduated college, I got my draft notice again, saying report like a week after graduation. And this was 1968, when the war was raging and they were grabbing anybody they could and putting a uniform on them. I made plans to go to California. And sure enough, probably 4 days after graduation, I was on the road heading for California. And when I got there, I just felt such satisfaction and happiness. I felt like I had come home. And I spent some time in Southern California, and then I ended up spending more time in Berkeley and San Francisco, and really loved it there. And as I was traveling around the country, I was changing my address, so I wasn't violating the draft laws. Well, I ran out of money, and I still had friends back east, and I just came to the realization that I was going to have to face reality and face this draft. And so I got drafted and spent 2 years in the Army. But the good news was that I happened to meet this wonderful sister who lived in New York City. And we became close. And so I was able to see her a lot during those 2 years. And I had some really dark times during those 2 years, really dark. But about 6 months before I was getting out in 1970, I started changing my life. I started working out. I started, eating as best I could with Army food, and started realizing that the light at the end of the tunnel was coming very quickly, and I was going to get out. So when I got out, I moved to Brooklyn. That's where this sister was living, and I moved in with her. And I really started continuing to change my life. I became a vegetarian. I started doing hatha yoga. And in those classes, we were taught a basic meditation technique. You got to realize, I still don't know what I want to do with my life. I am still totally lost. But I still had this burning faith that I was supposed to be in California. And so I kept talking to her about, come with me to California. And she was in college, and she said, well, I got 2 more years. I said, okay, I'll wait. And so I waited. I did some odd jobs and painted houses and did stuff like that for 2 years. And then finally we bought a bread truck that was converted into a camper. And we headed out. And at that time there was a lot of communities that were happening, and there was actually a book of communities that listed, their addresses and their basic beliefs and what they were doing. And so we stopped at a few of those along the way. Nothing really felt right. But I have to back up a little bit, because when I was taught the meditation technique, I started practicing it. And I had an experience where I was meditating one day, and I saw myself with this group of people in a huge field, and we were all very happy and joyful. And I thought, okay, well that tells me that I'm supposed to look for some sort of community to be with, that I can have a similar identity with as everybody else. And so that's why we were stopping at these different communities. So again, this was another experience of inner knowing faith, that I had the faith that I was going to find something, a community of some sort, because I had this experience in meditation that was real. It was a real vision of my future. So in 1972, we found Sunburst, and I've been here ever since. And that whole experience kind of reminds me, I don't know if you haven't seen this movie, it's really a good movie. Spielberg did one years ago called Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where these different people, there were these UFO sightings, and these UFOs would fly over and they would zap people with energy. And these people had a movement within themselves that they had to find this mountain, and they had no idea where it was or what it was. And it's the story of this one main actor making that journey, just not hesitating and just leaving his old life behind and moving forward to find that mountain. He didn't know why. He didn't know what was going to happen there. He just had to find it. And that's that burning inner faith that we all need to have. And it's so obvious that it's not a belief. It's something that's instilled in the cells of our body. So how do we achieve this inner knowing faith? Well, it can be achieved through just the grace of God, who just blesses us with it. It can be achieved through meditation practice, contemplation, and prayer. All those things develop the presence of the divine and awareness of the presence of the divine within us. And this increases our personal intuition. And intuition is what substantiates the inner knowing, our faith. So, as we move into a meditation period together, realize that our spines are often referred to as a tree of life. It's also referred to as the interdimensional tunnel. And at the very base of our spine is the coiled serpent that was referred to many times in the Bible. Moses raised up the serpent in the desert. It's called the Kundalini Energy. And this Kundalini Energy needs to rise up within us and to the third eye or Christ center, all-seeing eye. And that's part of the meditation technique, is that as we inhale, we draw up this Kundalini current in our interdimensional tunnel, our tree of life, to our third eye. And then we open our crown chakra and we allow that light of the divine with the exhalation to come back down through a series of centers or chakras along the interdimensional tunnel. And each one of these chakras it vibrates at a different frequency, has a different color, and it's within these chakras that we have past life experiences, possibly that might keep us from progressing in this life. And by practicing a meditation, we can blast through these different centers by rising up this Kundalini current and achieve oneness with the divine. And it's what Yogananda talked about, it's what Norm talked about, and it's a wonderful process that God has granted us humans the ability to do. So as we develop this intuition through our practice of meditation, it'll fuel our faith and give us courage to follow that inner knowing faith. So as we sit together for a few minutes, let us practice as we inhale, feel the energy of the coiled serpent rising up the spine, the interdimensional tunnel, to your third eye. Open the crown chakra and allow that divine light as you exhale to come back down. And that's one circulation. And then start again with the next inhalation. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you were able to feel those energies with your breath. I wanted to read a poem that Norm wrote about faith. Faith is that elusive knowing arising from deep within, telling me that the world will continue tomorrow upon my retiring at the end of the day. It is that belief I have in you, O giver of life, a force of energy and consciousness that is projecting everything I see and know. My heart beating this very moment, this beat, this pulse of life, what a miracle it is to burst forth from sleep and greet another day. Oh, how I do delight in being alive. Yes, my faith has brought me to another sunrise, but surely I will continue to see sunrises. You, my faith, please tell me this is so. It illuminates and colors everything so gloriously. The trees, the flowers, the distant mountains, such a canvas that you have spread out and painted before me. O God, I rejoice in my faith in you and your creation, and that it will continue. My faith tells me that it will. And your companion, Father, I know you have one. She must be the natural mother of my existence. The beauty of her garden, her natural handiwork, they all call nature. Yes, Mother, I believe you hear me. Surely your nature will always exist. You are the birth mother of souls, my soul included. I have faith you will return to mother me again, here and elsewhere. I am your daughter and yes, your son. So long for now. So as we move through this Dapara Yuga, and we are faced with daily remembrance of how fragile this planet is and how it's up to us to change the direction that's destroying this planet, not only environmentally, but consciously. So have the faith, the inner knowing, that this existence here on this planet will continue. There will be more sunrises. There will be more opportunities for growth, spiritually and mentally, physically. And as we reincarnate again, we will have a beautiful, beautiful planet to exist on. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.
My body is this whole world, my spirit all eternity, my joy, the joy of me, my life an endless sea, my love goes out to all, thy will forever be done, singing glory and praise spirit all eternity, my joy.